It was an eventful weekend north of the border in the Great White North, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Had a UFC back for the first time since 2019. And on the preliminary card, you saw Sean Woodson take out Charles Jourdain. And it was, Sean, it was quite interesting. The fight was good. It was competitive, a little more dramatic, I think, at the end with the announcement of a split decision. Before I get to the actual sort of oddities that went along with Buffer, saying your name, what did you think when you heard that one of the judges actually gave it to Charles?
So in the moment, man, I mean, I'm sure you've heard this from other fighters before. Like during the fight live, it's hard for us to really judge how it's going. Like, we're not sure what the judges are seeing. And just being in the cage fighting and it being that live action, it's hard for me to even tell exactly how these rounds are going, unless there's an extremely decisive round. It's really hard to tell how the fight's going. But so like right after the fight, I felt like in the moment that it could have been close. Now that I've rewatched it, though, it wasn't close in my opinion at all. But yeah, like in the moment though, I felt like it could have been close. And the moment I heard it was a split, I was worried because I immediately thought, I'm like, fuck, I'm here in Canada,
Right.
and can we cuss on here?
You can. Yeah, the floor is yours.
Ooh, yeah. So yeah, the moment it was a split, I was a little worried. I'm like, man, it already seemed like that fight could have been close, and now it's a split, and it's in Canada. So yeah, I was a little worried for sure.
You mentioned fighting in hostile territory. That's the other thing that I would think sort of would be the X factor in not knowing kind of what you're doing. I was in the building. I was in Scotiabank Arena, and your fight more than any other, I think, throughout the night was definitely one of those where Jourdain's offense was getting a lot of applause, and your offense was not necessarily getting the endorsement of the crowd, despite it being
Right.
effective. And sometimes you got to worry: are the judges sort of tuned in on what the crowd thinks is more worthwhile offense than your own? And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, maybe the judges are seeing it in a different way than most people are at home.
Yeah, 100%, man. And that's why, some of the antics that I do that some people would look at as showboating, it's I mean, maybe there's a little bit of that, but it's honestly not. More so like, I feel like I gotta let the judges know. Like when a guy throws a shot that, like hits me in the shoulder or like he barely misses and the crowd has a big reaction to it, I gotta, I shake my head and I'm like, no, like that was he didn't touch me and stuff like that. I'm doing that more so for the judges and showboating than anything. And yeah, during the fight, he was chopping on my leg pretty good. But, majority of those spinning back kicks and a lot of the other big shots he threw would either hit the fence right by me or
Right.
he would hit my shoulders. But, there would just be a big crowd reaction. And yeah, I just felt like I had to let the judges know on that. And yeah, and I also noticed that exactly what you said. A lot of his actions were getting a big reaction from the crowd, and mine weren't. Like there would be a lot of stiff, straight shots and jabs and right hands that I was landing on him that I wasn't so sure if the judges were seeing. And like as the fight was playing out, I'm seeing his face get marked up, and I'm seeing a little blood, and I'm feeling these shots landing, but I just wasn't so sure if the judges were seeing that as well.
You get a little bit of analysis being later in the fight card. If you're, going out there, fight one or two, maybe the fights in front of you don't necessarily go the distance. You're getting to see a little bit of what the judges are maybe rewarding in front of you. But, I'm curious, would you prefer like an open scoring model to know exactly where you were in that moment?
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm 100% without a doubt one of those guys that I'm all for an open scoring. It's like why not? Like what could well, I was gonna say what could hurt. I guess if a guy is ahead, he could kind of coast on a lead, I guess. But no, I think open scoring would do nothing but good things for the sport.
Yeah, no, I definitely think. I mean, if you look at it to traditional stick and ball sports, there's not another sport out there that doesn't have a scoreboard that's available to the players, competing. So, let,
And
let,
I want to know and like I want to know going into every round where I stand. And like
right.
that third round, I would love to know if I'm behind on the scorecards and I really got to go for it.
Yeah, you mentioned jabs too, because I think jabs win fights at all levels of combat sports. It's so basic, it's so rudimentary, but a lot of times a good jab doesn't necessarily get rewarded unless it's punishing your opponent. And sometimes, over the course of 15 minutes, maybe you get away from your jab in the latter parts of a fight, or you don't know if it's working, and it can definitely sort of, mess with your own offensive output. I want to talk about Bruce Buffer and his ring announcing. I heard in the building, it was hard to hear because you know, the fans were sort of cheering. Jourdain was looking back at Buffer. He kind of sold to everyone that he had won the fight. And it seemed like you kind of went along with it. Everyone went along with it except Daniel
Yeah,
Cormier and Bruce Buffer. What was going through your mind? Did you not hear Bruce say your name?
yeah, man. He, like you said, Jourdain kind of sold it to her. He sold it to me too. It was the best feint that he got me with in the whole fight for real. And, yeah, so like right afterwards, like I said, they were reading it. I knew it was a split, and I was listening pretty good, but for some reason at the end there, I guess the crowd kind of like picked up a bit, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, when he read that final scorecard off, I could have swore he said Charles. And watching it back when I listened to it, even when I listen to it again, it still sounds like the first part he kind of says Charles, but then he clearly says the
Right.
sniper Woodson. But once I thought I heard Charles, I was done listening. I was, like, heartbroken and upset, and I thought they gave it to him. And then yeah, his hands went up right away, and the ref raised his hand, which I guess threw me off more than anything. And yeah, I just, in that moment, for those 5 to 10 seconds, man, I thought I had lost.
It's something that is weird. Something so simple can be so complex, and there are many reasons why it goes that way. And I think you're right. I think Charles sold it. If we're on a regional show, they might have just let you get out of the cage and start interviewing him. But no,
Yeah,
they had
yeah.
all buttoned up.
But yeah, I was headed out the cage. Yeah, like I shook his hand, and like I wasn't gonna start calling robbery. I felt like I did enough, but like if they would have gave it to him, I'd have just been like, oh, I should have did more. That's on me. And yeah, I was on my way out in the cage, and yeah, just crazy turn of events, man, crazy.
Yeah, I bet the emotional highs and lows in a matter of 15 seconds had to be going absolutely bananas inside your head. Watching the fight back, it seemed like you were more in line with what people saw at home. I think the best card for Charles that you could really give is maybe he won the third round, so maybe 29-28. Still, though, very much in your favor. Give me a grade on the performance, Sean. Tell me what you feel ultimately got your hand raised last Saturday in Toronto.
So to be honest, typically, had that been, well, not even perfect, because there's never a perfect fight camp, but had that been, like a good, decent fight camp, I'd honestly be pretty upset with that performance, man. Like I just expect better out of myself. I'm my hardest critic, and yeah, I wouldn't have been happy with that. But considering the fight camp I had, the circumstances, enemy territory against that quality of an opponent, I'm happy with it. That was the worst fight camp I've ever had in my life. Almost didn't make it to the fight. I had a real bad injury going into that put me on the shelf for like 5 weeks of that training camp. Then after that, it healed up to a good spot where I could train. I got in about 3 solid weeks of training, and then the last 2.5 weeks, I was sick as a dog, got the flu, and so yeah. Considering all the circumstances, I'm happy with the performance. I thought I would still be able to finish that dude. I thought he would be a lot more aggressive than he was. I didn't see it being, I knew we were both high level strikers. And a lot of times when you get high level strikers, you get kind of this chess match going on. But, watching all his other fights, I don't think I've ever seen a fight where Charles Jourdain was a little reluctant on pressing forward. So, yeah, it ended up being a chess match. And, yeah, but, all circumstances aside, I'm happy with it for sure.
You should be happy. I mean, he's a top caliber opponent. You get the win again in hostile territory, which is, definitely risky business when you're taking on somebody that is that technical that you might not be able to necessarily
Oh,
put away. Solid record for yourself here in the UFC. What do you expect this year to sort of, have for you? And what does the roadmap going forward look like?
yeah, man, I expect this to really be my year, really be my year where I make a statement and really make a name for myself. Fighting January is perfect. It perfectly sets up an active year. Ever since I've been in the UFC, I fought like once, maybe twice a year, and I don't like that. So yeah, this year is already set up for me to have an active year. I want to fight again in May or June. Then right after that, I want to fight October, maybe early November, right before the holidays, and just to get in three fights this year. And like I said, climb those rankings, and yeah, make a name for myself, and be done with the fighting once a year deal.
Is there anybody out there that you want? I know this is always sort of a tricky situation because the UFC, they reward people that are company men in the sense that you'll take any fighter that stands in front of you, but they also tend to reward people that, kind of call their shot and say, hey, I want this guy, I want that guy. What is your mindset like? Are you sort of the guy that just lets them pick, or do you want to have a say in who you fight next?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like I'm 100% comfortable with just letting my management, letting the UFC, pick who I fight because I'll never turn down anybody. I'm down to fight anybody, anywhere. And yeah, I'm like 100% happy with being a company man, like you said, and just doing whatever they ask of me. That's my job is to fight and fight whoever they put in front of me. Right out the gate when I got in the UFC, I was calling guys out left and right, and I've still yet to get a guy that I've called out. So I've kind of like, not putting so much emphasis on that. But like I said, I want to have an active year. So if I don't hear something soon, then I'll definitely start, looking and seeing who's matched up, who's not, and definitely start making some noise for sure.
Well, Sean, we appreciate the time. Congrats on a huge win north of the border, and good luck on getting everything you want done here in 2024.
No doubt, man. This is my year. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.